Now, this year with people, I noticed that many of the workers were moved around. There's still a lot of people in the same areas as well, but let's start with the restaurants. Fernando, I didn't see him except for when he was in the a la cartes, and he only seemed to be working during the a la cartes night a la carte meals. So I don't know what reason that was for that part. But with him, there was also, I don't know her name, but there was a chubbier, taller black lady who worked in the Oriental restaurant with him. And one thing I'll say is he worked in the Oriental Caribbean side of things. And then there was this thinner lady who I would say I do frequently as well. And then a couple other ones as well with that tall, weird lady. Or, sorry, not tall, weird lady. That was that weird lady that I was talking about earlier. That had a little bit of an issue with acting weird. That lady was in the same as Fernando, only one or two occasions, and I hadn't seen her other than that. The older skinny lady is what I was trying to say, and then a couple others. So, and that was the main ones in the restaurants. But in the elegance, there was Amelia, Mulan, Chicky, Cootie. Again, Chicky and Cootie are nicknames. I don't know their real names, the two of them. Yamika, and then there were several different cooks, newer ones too as well. Roxy, Jolie, the concierge, both concierge. And then there's Blanca, the elegance manager, as well as Annalie, who was there last year, was off this year due to taking some time off. I guess I heard she took some time off. And the only other person that wasn't there from last year was Cookie. She was off. I found out that she was just laid off due to low season, I guess. Why? I don't know. But I guess they decided to lay her off for the summertime and only brought her in during high season. As far as I know, she's still not there as of like last month in end of October, November. She was supposed to be there, but she wasn't there as of around October, November. That's what I found out recently too. So anyway, but supposedly she's supposed to be back, which apparently she's not back yet. But anyway, so continuing on with that, I remember Yelmika. It looks like when you spell her name, it's Milka, but it's apparently it's Yamika or something. I remember her from the lobby bar. She had red hair, and she was from the lobby bar last year. She served me with that older lady that I was hanging out with. They served me with her. She served us, sorry. Let me say that properly. During the entertainment is when she served me during the entertainment, when I was in there with the entertainment. Now, same with Chicky and Cootie, but I'm changing this up a little bit. I think that Chicky, I don't remember her specifically in anywhere specific at the bar, at any of the bars or restaurants or anything. But I think I saw her in a picture that I had taken of the lobby bar. I think she was in one of those photos, and I believe she was at the lobby bar last year. But I'm not 100% sure. And as for Cootie, I was there 3 weeks, and it didn't even occur to me. I didn't know who he was, other than, him serving me during that time. And it took me 3 weeks. And I tell you, 3 weeks. And I ended up going to the buffet one day to take some video of that area. And it clicked to me. I remembered him from 2 years earlier when I was here in September of 2022. I was in the buffet one evening and waiting for some fish to be cooked. And this guy comes to me. He says to me, are you elegant? Or at that time it was not elegance, it was privilege. Are you privileged? I'm like, yes. And he told me to come over to that little lounge there for privileged people at that time, which last year they used as the gourmet restaurant last year. So you see what I'm talking about? They're changing a lot of stuff around. But I just remembered this guy, Cootie, turns out he was the guy that asked me if I was privileged. And I went over to him later and I'm like, you know what? I remember you. It just occurred to me, as I just said here, I told him the same story. I remember him and I said, I remember you. You were in the buffet, the lounge for the buffet for privileged people, right? At that time, 2 years ago. And he kind of said, yes, his English is not super great. But when I told him that, he says, yes, he does remember being in there 2 years earlier. So he was the guy that I happened to see at that time. So it was crazy. I'm like, wow. And like I said, I didn't remember him until literally that day that I took those videos. And this was like on the 4th week that I was there. And I'm like, wow. Of course, he served so many people, so he didn't remember me. But I'm like, out of nowhere, it just came to me. So anyway, other people along the way, there's a guy named Osil who happened to work, normally he worked at the beach bar before this year. And he actually had been put over to the lobby bar. And he used to call, when he would see me, he would call me by my last name, which is really funny, actually. He wouldn't call me by my first name. He'd just call me by my last name because he knew who I was on social media. Anyway, that said, he was brought over to the lobby bar to help out there because I guess the beach bar wasn't really open much. If it was very short times that it was open because the beach area there was very quiet most times. Even at the busiest, it wasn't enough to open up the bar. If it was open, like I said, I don't know. It could have been open, but that said, that's where this guy was from. Now, there was this other lady named Janet. I just found out the day that I did something at that time. This was like back at the early October when I found out this lady. I remember her. And I'm like, she was working in the coffee shop. And I remember her elsewhere at that time. So yeah, that's crazy. She was working with Siley every other day, right? Siley one day in the Mike's coffee shop, and Siley in one day, and then that lady in Janet another day. I do remember, like I said, I remember her from like the year before. I just don't remember offhand exactly where she was last year. Probably the lobby. And then as of last year too, when I did last year's review. I remember that tall black man that I saw in the snack bar by the pool. The tall black man that I saw from the first year in 2022, and he was in the snack bar last year. He was actually, I saw him for the first time at the lobby bar. And I went up to him and I said, "Hey, my friend, nice to see you again." And, we did greetings and stuff and, slapped each other's hands, high five. And it's crazy because I remember a couple times I would slap his hand with a high five later, and he's got a hard slap. Man, I mean, I have a pretty strong slap myself, but man, and my hand was hurting after slapping him a couple times with my hand. when we'd slap each other's hands. Man, holy crap, that guy had a hard slap. Like, my hand was hurting. I was like, oh. I was kind of like, ooh, but I didn't do that. I was just kind of like, ooh, Jesus, that guy has a really hard slap. But anyway, we grabbed hands as well, and after a high five, and we said hello to each other, introduced each other. Hey, how's it going? Blah blah blah. Right? We greeted each other basically. But yeah, man, it hurt. I can't believe it. Now, there's a couple more things I want to say before I end this one. Henry. There's this guy named Henry in the Elegance bar. Now, I've never met him before this year, but now we're amigos. And he had made me a pina colada frequently because that's mostly what I had there. He made me a couple other drinks as well, but mostly just simple ones. But I mostly had pina coladas. Of course, the pina coladas are out of powder because they don't have real pina colada. As for Roberto, who's usually at the Elegance bar, he was off for several weeks, almost 3 weeks by the time I seen him again. He was on holidays at this point in time, but when he came back was the last week I was there. When I saw him, I walked up to him. He was actually by one of the there's the little tables between the chairs, and he happened to be doing something there by the chair. And I said, hello, Roberto. Hello. How's it going? Nice to see you again. He looked at me and he said, oh, yes, hey. He remembered me from last year. I actually did. I believe I might have asked him if he remembered me from last year, but I think he did anyway. Okay, so, so once what happened was Henry would work quite frequently, 6 days a week or more sometimes. And then 1 week he actually had a couple days off. There's another guy that covered him. I don't know his name or anything like that, but he covered him for the couple days so he can have a day off. So, and then a week later is when he finally got more days off, because every couple days Henry would cover, and then he'd be off for 2 days, and then Roberto was coming in. So I saw Roberto 4 days out of the last 7 days, roughly. And I believe the last day I saw Henry. So that said, that's how that worked with this new guy that I met, Henry. So yes, one thing as well, Roberto asked me about the band, which was yellow. I said by this point it was already white because it was all rubbed off. But I said, yeah, it's yellow now instead of white or gray. One thing I want to mention as well is almost a weekend to me being there, I get a knock on my door when I was resting because I had a nap that day. And I opened the door and Jolie was smiling at me. And in her hand, she had a bottle of Havana Club rum. And I'm like, okay, what's that about? I'm thinking to myself. Which I never realized. I guess we're allowed to get one of those. I didn't know it was a part of the package because previous years they never gave us any rum. But I guess they were, because it takes a while to get stuff in sometimes. It took them that week. I finally got a bottle of rum, which I gave to somebody back home that I know. So yeah, that's what I did there.